Hello, everybody. It's Monday. It is hopefully drama-free Monday. Can you hear me okay? I hope. Let me know. Hi, Terry. Hi, Peggy. What is with the crowns? They keep changing. Oh, that's the number of the person that comes to the chat. Is that what it is? Hi, Orange. Thank you. Yeah, so anyway, I'm here. I think. Yes. A little congested in the head. Hi, Connie. What is it with the crowns? What is that? Do you guys see that in the chat? Like little crowns and numbers? Crazy. Anyway, who cares? Yeah, so I'm here and the sound is okay. Hi, Dorothy. Well, I wasn't sure. Okay, so Terry, you don't see them? Okay, must just be on the streamers thing. That is weird. It's a weird little icon right after the person's name. They must be having a good time over there in the YouTube world of figuring stuff out. Yeah, that must just be on my screen. Doesn't matter. Anyway, yes, so it is it's Monday, I think. It is Monday, I believe. Anyway, it's good to be back with you guys. I've missed you all. I have missed you. And I've missed streaming. And part of my equipment didn't want to work this evening. But, you know, we'll roll with it. I'll figure that out later. Hey, Rhonda. Rhonda is Jinx. She wears the blue shirt. And she's one of my moderators, whom I very much appreciate. Anyway, so it is Monday, and I'm just looking to see what I can do tonight. Because, as you might have guessed, I have not had a chance to figure that out. And on the time, you're one hand typing. Oh. Did you do something? Did you hurt your hand? I hope not. On the time that I have been living on vacation, this is the middle of the, no, pretty much the middle of the night right now. And so it's maybe not the middle of the night, but it's very late at night. It's probably around the time Dorothy's dealing with. We went on a family vacation. And it wasn't quite the Chevy Chase version of Family Vacation, but there were parts of it that were close to that. Close. Anyway, hey, Ruth. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Yes, we went on a family vacation. So we took Elton's son and his wife, a daughter with her daughter, so his daughter and granddaughter, and his other daughter, and we all went on a family vacation together. Race and his wife were off celebrating his 50th birthday. He'd probably not appreciate me telling you that, but they were off doing that, so they were not with us. And my granddaughter has two very small children, and so they were not with us, but all of Elton's kids were with us and his granddaughter. So hopefully you guys can hear me. Can you hear me all right? I hope the sound is okay. It looks like it's okay. So anyway, there were 7 of us in total on this vacation, and it was good. It was really good. You can hear me fine? Okay. We had a really good time. It was crazy and wild and wonderful and all of that. Fraught with lots of adventures, of course, when you have that many people. And the age range of the people on this vacation went from almost 15, like 15 in about a week and a half, to 77. That is a very wide age range. And but we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. Some of us tired out more than others. I know you can't imagine whom I could be referring to that would be more tired than others. It was not the almost 15-year-old. Right. That's right. From peppy to pooped. It's so true. It was so true. It was fun, though. So what we did, we'll just, let's see, what shall I do as I talk? Let me put this out of the way. I hope you guys don't mind if I revisit, because it's on my desk, the bleeding tissue paper, because it's what's on my desk. That's what we're going to have to do tonight. Hopefully that's okay with you. I'm going to get out a couple of watercolor cards. I think I have some still. Let's see. Those are envelopes. I wonder if it'll work on the envelopes too. I think we're going to do some envelopes because that's what's left in the package. So I think we're going to do some envelopes. I think that's what we'll do. I do have one little card that started, and so we'll put a flower on this card. And then I have envelopes, so I think we'll make some pretty envelopes tonight because that's what's here tonight. I hope that's all right with you all. I am a little congested from all of the traveling and all of the in and outs of airplanes and changes of climate and you name it, so I'm a little congested sounding. Hello, Deborah. Good to see you. All right, let me get some water. I just need to get some water and a brush, and then I will talk as I do stuff. Miss Muppet is in the house tonight. She is joining me, and she's in the studio. She's right down here by me, and I would show her to you, but that camera's decided not to work tonight. So let me get some water, and I'll be right back. Okay. Alrighty. Here we are. So you wouldn't think that being gone for just a couple of days away from streaming, not a couple of days from you guys, but a couple of times from streaming can disorient you, but it sure can. Okay, so let's come over here. We'll take a look at this, and then I'll tell you as I talk. Wrong one. There we go. As we chat, I'll tell you more about the trip. Okay? Hello, Miss Dana. And hello to anybody that I didn't see. Ruth ordered tissue paper. Okay, I am going to, here, let me do this. My switching device is not working tonight, so we're having to go old school here tonight. Okay. And I need my, get a little closer so you guys can see a little bit more. Okay, so this is a card that I had in progress. And I think this is watercolor, but it could be acrylic paint, and it may run once I touch it with water. But we will find out, because I'm really not sure what that is. It looks like watercolor. Anyway, okay. All right, here we go. So this is bleeding tissue paper that I have in here, and so we're gonna, apparently I cut some of those into petal shapes when I was here before doing this, and so we're gonna just take some of those petal shapes out here, and we're just gonna play because that's what I got tonight. We're gonna play, and this is what we did the last time we were together, and that's been a while. We did the bleeding tissue paper, and this was on the cards. So we did the bleeding tissue paper and did some borders, left some white space, and then that's where we used those petal shapes. And same thing on this one. They're all similar versions of different ideas, and then just some crazy outlining around the shapes of the flowers and stuff. Okay, so that's kind of the thought there. And so I think that we're gonna stick with kind of warm tones here on this flower. Just, I don't know, just because. It's because that's what I'm thinking. So we're gonna do that. Okay, here we go. We got some petals. Now the thing about the bleeding tissue paper is if you're not a careful applier of water, if you slop water onto the little pile of tissue papers, makes a mess. Yeah, starts immediately bleeding out the tissue. Now you see crayons from the iPad. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know what that is. Anybody knows, let me know. Yeah, little Muppet she's laying here on her pallet. I got her from the vet today. She stayed at the vet for 12 days, and fortunately they love her. They're very good with her, and they're very patient with her. But they said today that she scares them because, and I understand exactly what they're saying, because she goes to sleep very soundly. She doesn't hear anything much at all now, and so she goes to so soundly to sleep that when they go in to get her to take her outside or whatever, most of the time she is so sound asleep that they can't tell whether she's breathing or not. And so I do understand that. So she scares them. But anyway, okay, so what we did on this trip is we went from let's see, I don't know what day it was, the 2nd of July. Yeah, 2nd of July. We drove to St. Louis, and we picked up one of the daughters. One of the daughters had come and stayed overnight with us. And then we drove to St. Louis because we were flying out of St. Louis. So we drove to St. Louis the next day and picked up the other daughter. And we were running late, don't you know? Of course. It's not a good idea when you're going on an international flight, I might add. But we were running late, but we made it okay. Picked up the other daughter, the other granddaughter. They were ready, fortunately. And then we went to the airport, had to park the car, board a shuttle bus. And this ought to be an interesting flower. And we boarded a shuttle bus to get to the airport and got to the airline, the terminal. And then there was a very long line, which is why you need to go to the airport early. But we didn't. Because you always try to cram just one or two more things into, into your life, than you really ought to do. But anyway, all right, we are going to kind of put, I don't know what's going to happen to this little worm that I have crawling up the stem of this, but I'm going to put a little petal over him. Anything could happen here. He may blend in or he may shine through. I don't know what's going to happen here. Okay. All right, so we'll see what happens with that. I'll just set that off to the side. Maybe what we ought to do is put a few pieces of tissue paper around the outside edge. What do you think? Shall we do that? Let's do that. Let's do just maybe some blues. Yeah, let's try just some blues. So I'm just going to get some of those. Maybe some purples too, since we have those. So anyway, we got there and we got boarded okay, thankfully, very thankfully. Luggage got boarded. I'll tell you, having Apple AirTags in your suitcase. If you travel at all, if you have the ability, it only works with Apple products, like with iPhones and stuff, but if you have the ability to use those Apple AirTags, I'm telling you, that is a handy thing. It is very handy, because then you can track where your stuff is, where your suitcases are. That's very handy, let me tell you. Very. Anyway, I digress. Okay, let's put, while I'm thinking here, I'm thinking and doing and yakking. So this could be trouble tonight, but let's go for it. Well, it looks like the little caterpillar or worm is not going to totally bleed out into oblivion, so that's good. I'm just going to cut some of these little pieces of bleeding tissue squares in half, because I don't really need to use up the whole squares, because I'm just going to do a little border around the edge of this card and see what happens. I don't really know what's going to happen because we haven't done this before. We meaning me, myself and I. So anyway, we got to the airport. We did finally get checked in just fine. We even had time to get a snack, which I couldn't believe that we had time to do that, but we did. That was great. And then we got on the plane, and it was at like 1:30 or something, I think, in the afternoon. I think that's what it was. And we headed for Frankfurt. Well, it was late, actually. It was late. The plane left late, and so we got on the plane. You know, it's all this rush, hurry up, and then the plane didn't leave. I forgot why. I forgot what the reason was. I've slept several times since then. And so anyway, we were late leaving, which meant that we ended up, it was something with luggage. That's what it was. Okay, they had somehow, I don't understand this, but somehow they had either loaded the wrong luggage on our plane, or they had luggage left over from the flight before that they didn't get off our plane. I don't really know. I didn't understand. And I was just so relieved that we were there and that we got on that we got on the flight, that, you know, after that I'm like, give me something to just knock me out, because I just want to go to sleep for a while. I was real tired at that point. Anyway, we finally got off the ground. I just forgot what the reason was until I started talking, and then I finally remembered. You ever do that? Like your brain goes on a hiatus until all of a sudden you go, oh yeah, that's what happened. Anyway, so we got off the ground and we're flying to Frankfurt, Germany. Now, I've never been to this part of the world, and so it was a whole complete new adventure to me. I had not studied I hadn't studied up on where we were going or what we were going to be doing, which is, there were other parties in our group that had done that, but I was not one of them, because I prefer to just go and experience it. My brain definitely needs an air tag pronto, definitely. It could really use one of those right now. Anyway, so we flew to Germany. The most interesting part about flying to Germany, flying that direction at that time of day, is that, boy, I'm having to think and do this at the same time. That's a little bit of a brain stretch. Anyway, the interesting thing about that is that you fly, the sun goes down as you fly, right? Because of the time that we left. So the sun went down, and I think it was dark outside for about maybe an hour, and then the sun rose. That is the craziest thing, to go through sunset and sunrise so close together. I didn't have any idea it worked like that, you know? I had no idea. And so then we get to, we fly into Frankfurt, and because we were late and we were meeting another plane, we had to change planes, and we had to fly to Venice. And I'm telling you, by the time we all got there, okay, I don't know, where's my mouse? I don't know if you guys have some of you are probably very experienced flyers. I'm not particularly experienced in the flying world, but when you've been on a really long flight, sometimes you just really, really, really need to go to the bathroom. When you get off that plane, it's like the only thing you can think of is, I need a break. I need to go in that bathroom. I need a break. I need to wash my face or my hands, or, I'm tired of being cooped up on a plane. I just need a little break. Nope. We were met by staff there in at the airport, and they're saying, this way, this way, this way. And so they took us out, took us down, put us on a bus, took us somewhere, took us up steps, took us down steps. We had to go get passports checked, then we got back on the bus, and then we got shoveled somewhere else, and then we had to go up a bunch of steps, and then we had to have tickets scanned. I don't know. It was crazy. That was truly crazy. And at one point I said to one of the people scanning the tickets, of course they all pretty much spoke English, which is good because I don't speak German. I am not bilingual, trilingual, or any other lingual, and sometimes I have a hard time speaking English, quite frankly, as you can tell. Hello, Galina. It was, yeah. Hey, Carol. And hello to anybody else that I don't see here. That I didn't say hello to before, in other words. So, anyway, at one point I walk up to when they're scanning the tickets, and I say, as they're doing that, I said, do we have time to go to the restroom? And she says, no. I'm like, what do you mean, no? She meant no. That's what she meant. There was no time for that, such nonsense, such foolishness. Okay, so anyhow, that was kind of interesting. All right, so here's what we have on this one. This stuff down here, the stem, the leaves, and the little worm thing, those were already on this piece of watercolor card. I do have another one here. Maybe we'll see what this does. Maybe we'll do something crazy with that. I'm going to set this over here to the side, and we'll let it dry. And hopefully I won't stick my hand in it. I need to put it on something. Yeah. Okay. Got it. All right. So anyway, where was I? Trying to find a bathroom. Yeah. So, and then they put us back on a bus, and they drove us a long way. It seemed like a very long way. The more you have to go to the bathroom, the longer a trip is. Am I right? Am I right? I mean, it could be 1 mile, and it feels like it might as well be 16 miles. And, yeah. Let's put some of these... What size circles do I have in here? We should have a variety of circles, shouldn't we? Yeah. Let's get some of these. I'm just going to play with some of these little circles. And we're just going to, I don't know what's going to happen here. This could all go horribly wrong. And it doesn't really matter because we're just playing here tonight. Oh, it wasn't, it was the bladder is what it was really testing. But they put us back on a bus. So we've been on and off the bus twice. We've gone up and down lots of stairs twice. And away we go. The last time they take us on the bus, and we drove quite a while. Of course, every bump makes you go, oh, 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 oh. You know what I mean? And so we go, I mean, we are on this, it's this big bus, and we're going all over the place. But it's like on the, it's like on the tarmac where the planes are, kind of thing. I don't know how they do what they do. I don't know. Anyway, so we're in the bowels of the airport in Frankfurt, Germany, and riding on a bus, and you're hauling your luggage. Did we have our luggage? No, at that point we didn't. Our luggage was checked all the way through. And then they finally get us to the place where we're going to go get on the next airplane. Much smaller airplane. And we get on the next airplane. And still no one has had a break. And then you have to, because they're holding the plane for us. Okay? So guess what happens when they hold the plane for you? And it was a bunch of people. It wasn't just us. You know, there were a lot of people that they held that plane for, because it was a whole busload of people that came off our flights, and I don't know if it was other flights too or whatever. Anyway, they're holding the plane, and they are wanting to get going, but they had so many people that were on the flight we were on that they had to hold the second plane. So, of course, what do? Tell you to sit down and tighten your seatbelt. I'm like, this is going to be bad. And so it was a little dicey there for a little while, but, you know, finally, after we got off the ground and they let us get up and move around the plane, there was a rush to the little girls and little boys' rooms. I can tell you that. That was crazy. Anyway, we all made it. And so we arrived, like I said, we flew, we left at 1:30 in the afternoon. The sun set and immediately rose again. And we ended up arriving in Frankfurt at, not in Frankfurt, in Venice. We arrived in Venice. And then we went from the airport. We had to get our luggage, and then we had to go and meet a bus, and then we got on a bus, and we rode on the bus. Am I telling that right? No, that's not right. Is that what we did? No, wrong. I'm telling you the wrong thing. The right thing was they picked us up after we schlepped our luggage over, so we had to pick up our luggage, and then we followed the signs, and we went to the area where we got to the water taxi stand. Okay, I'd never heard. Do you know what a water taxi is? Anybody know what that is? Have you ever been on one? Yeah, potty dance is right. Yeah. So, do you know what a water taxi is? I mean, some of you here probably do. I don't know. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. But we were taking a water taxi. It is exactly what it sounds like. It's a fancy word for a boat. And so you get on the water taxi with all your luggage. And at this point, there were just 5 of us because Elton's son and daughter-in-law they were going to be a day later than we were. And so there were 5 of us, but believe me, we had plenty of luggage. Now, Elton and I have learned not to take too much luggage, but not everybody in our party was familiar with, not taking too much luggage. And so we had some that were a little more well packed, shall we say, as in more stuff. And so those were some heavy suitcases. There was one in particular that was super heavy, real heavy suitcase. And I think her, here's one of the secrets to traveling is buy a suitcase that is a good heavy duty, but not heavy in weight suitcase when you travel. Because if the suitcase starts out heavy and then you put your stuff in it, that can be real problems. And we had that issue with one of the suitcases. It was super heavy. And, but it wasn't Elton's or mine. So that was a good thing. I felt real, I was a little proud of myself that it wasn't me that caused the problem. And it really wasn't a problem. It was just you had to just adapt. Anyway, okay, so what I have here is circles of bleeding tissue paper. Hold on just a minute. I can't even mute myself. Just a second, you guys. Hello. You know what? I'm going to have to talk to you because I'm streaming. So I'm going to have to talk to you later. Can I call you back later? Okay. Alrighty. Bye. My sweet granddaughter checking in. Okay. So here is what we have here. I don't know what this is going to do. We're going to find out. So we're going to put this on here. And so here's what I have. I have the one we just did, and now I have this one, and we're just going to put this over here. And let those tissue papers dry while I rattle on and keep telling you stories about our trip. And now we're going to try this, and I have zero idea how this is going to work. This is an envelope from these watercolor cards. I don't think it's watercolor paper. This may be an epic fail, and if it is, oh well, right? It is incredibly hard to move around when you have, you can do it if you each have one suitcase. What we travel with is one suitcase and one backpack. And anything beyond that, we've learned you do not travel with. If you're in a car, that's one thing, but you don't do it with any of the rest of that. Yeah, no, you don't. If you do, you live to regret it. So, anyhow, okay. What should we do now? Let's just put some more bubbles on this envelope, shall we? I will have more scraps. I'll just have more colorful scraps, won't I? Okay, so we get to the water taxi. You go to a water taxi stand. And Elton's son had done the majority of the planning and the preparations and reservations and all that kind of stuff. Boy, words are hard to come by at the moment. And so he had the reservation for the water taxi, but you have to find the place where you get on the water taxi. Anyway, it's a boat. Okay, it's a boat. That's what it is. And you get on the boat, and you got to schlep all your luggage with you into the boat, and because we're in Venice, okay, and we are staying. I don't know my geography. I mean, I barely know where we were, let alone the geography of Venice. But we were staying at a hotel that was on the water. You know, like you walk out the front door of the hotel, and there's a sidewalk, and then there's the water, the canals. Okay, so it is, let's see, what time of morning was it? 9, 8, 9, I don't know. It was something like that, 8, 9, 9:30, something like that in the morning. We've flown, we've been on the airplane for a lot of hours. Sunrise, remember, we saw sunset and immediately saw sunrise. Wonder where I got that color from. Oh well, doesn't matter. And so we got to our hotel. The water taxi let us off at the hotel. We got all of our suitcases, and then we go into the hotel. And European hotels, at least this one, which was delightful, it was beautiful and all of that, but they're not very big. So their lobbies are not big. Nothing is very big. And then we have all this luggage. And so they graciously our rooms were not ready. And so they graciously they kept our suitcases, and then they sent us on our way to, I think, get out of their way. And then we went off, and we found some place, because by this point in time, you don't know what, you think your body probably wants something, but you don't really know what, because you have no idea what meal or what time of day or what you should be doing, because, you know, you nap on the plane at best. There's Kristen. That's my granddaughter. Hi, sweetheart. That was the one that just called me, and I said, I can't talk to you because I'm streaming. That's Christy. All right. So, I'm just putting some of this. I'm seeing if any of these tissue papers are doing anything. They are. Okay. They're not ready to come off yet, but they're doing their thing over there. Okay. So, where was I? Oh, and let me tell you, let me go here just one moment. Here we go. And in the middle of all of our travels and stuff, getting toward the end of the travels, my granddaughter, Christy, who has the 2 kids. Remember last year, about a year ago in June, I went to help with a new baby being born. My granddaughter is the mother of that baby. And that baby had to have surgery on his eyes at 1 year old. He surely did. And he had that just, let's see, just a few days ago, actually. And so he had surgery on his little eyes, and it was kind of a rough, I wouldn't say kind of rough, I think it was a pretty rough experience for everybody. But he is the happiest little thing, and he was such a trooper, and he was looking so good. And he has a little black eye because they had to remove a little cyst kind of thing that was on his eye. It was like up here. They had to take that off and also do some surgery on his eye, on his eyes, which I don't know exactly what the surgery was, and you know, even if I knew what it was, I couldn't explain it. But anyway, all is well. And so the weird part about that was that we were in a place, like we were sailing, we were on, because we ended up on a cruise. We were cruising, and you're out of touch. You can't get text messages or anything else. And then all of a sudden text messages came through. And I think that was a God thing. Text messages came through in real time to let me know that he had come through the surgery and everything was good and all that. It was really good. They call me Graham, grandkids do. This Graham was very grateful, exceedingly grateful, and very happy. And I just was so shocked that I actually got those messages, and I was so happy. Anyway, so he is doing so well. I'm so happy. So anyway, okay, enough of that. So let's go back, and this again is another envelope, which may or may not work, and we hope it does, but if it doesn't, oh well. All right, let's try doing maybe a little less of the circles, like a little narrower border. Anyway, so we got the water taxi, we got to the hotel, we got checked in, left our luggage, and then I think we went to eat, but I'm not really sure. And it took a while for our rooms to get ready. We got back to our rooms, and only one room was ready. And so at this point we're traveling with 2 daughters and a granddaughter. And so they all decided that we were the old people. So we should go check into our, take the first room that was ready, which I'm telling you, right, straight up, I was so glad they said that. Because I was about standing on my own last nerve. And I mean, we could barely function. We were all, Elton and I especially were just so tired. And so the hotel staff had graciously taken all of our luggage up, and they had put all of the luggage, because we were all going to be close together, rooms, close together in this hotel. And so they put all of our luggage in our room, which was just fine. And we walked in, and I mean, it's like somebody just took a big hammer and went to both of us. And we laid down on that bed, and we just absolutely, completely, and totally crashed, which meant that when the girls' rooms were ready, they had to come knock on our door, to get us to get up and get their luggage to them. I mean, the first time that happened, I got up because I'm like, I went so sound asleep so fast. And then all of a sudden, there's knocking on the door, and I'm like, what? I had to get up and go let the one daughter come in and get the suitcases, and then the other room finally got ready, and so then they came and knocked on the door again, and so we got the other suitcases. But I'm telling you, Elton never even heard them. The only thing, maybe he did hear him a little bit, but it was something like, what? When you're that out of it, it is, it's a little challenging, isn't it? When you're that out of it, to try to get up and figure out who's going, whatever. Oh, way drunk. Well, I was so sleep drunk. I'll tell you who gets sleep drunk in this group, and that is Elton. Yes. When he gets sleepified, well, this is all going to be a nice blue border. The purple didn't exactly work, but a little bit down here, but mostly it's going to be a blue border. So I'm just pulling this bleeding tissue off, and I could save this and use it for collage, and I don't know, I'll stuff it in the envelope. This is the spent tissue in this envelope, so trying to hang on to these little tiny bits of tissue paper. You got to have some place to put them, otherwise they fly all over the place. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, that looks kind of good. And the little guy going up the stem did okay. He survived. So I think that we all slept for several hours. We were all really wiped out because we had been, you have the excitement of getting ready to go and packing and doing all the stuff you got to do in preparation to leave, to go away for as many days as we were gone. And then you have the travel, and then you have all this, the getting ready and the traveling and the strange food that you're not used to, and and planes, trains, and automobiles and boats, as it were, boats that we went on, the water taxi. And of course everybody's afraid that Elton and I are going to take a nosedive into the drink because we're just so old and decrepit, and we did fine. Anyway, we slept for a long time, and then when you wake up, you're kind of like, oh, where am I and what planet is this? So, and then to tell you the truth, I don't know what we did that night. I do know that in Venice, which is where we were, I do know that in Venice, because of the canal system, all the water system, you have lots of bridges to go over. So you have lots of steps to go up and then over, and then lots of steps to go down. And it was nice and toasty warm that day. And, hey, Barbara. You did catch the Monday live stream. Hey, Amber, good to see you. Thanks, you guys, for coming. There were times when Barb had to sleep while she was there because it was tiresome. Anyway, but there were a lot of steps, and if the weather is cool, you can do that physical exertion easier than you can if it's really warm. And it was really warm. It was really warm, but not so warm that it couldn't get hotter. That's so true. It got hotter before it got, yeah, that was only the beginning of the hot. Anyway, so, okay, so here's what we have. Here's this little border that I added. That'll turn out to be kind of a cute little, that'll be a cute little card. Much to my amazement. And this one was the ones that I put the circles around this. And this, I don't know if that was watercolor or what that was. I don't remember. I'm going to set these off and let these dry, and we'll do at least one, maybe two more envelopes because it's what I'm capable of tonight. So I'm just setting those off to the side there. Let's use these up. These were the ones I just cut down, and maybe we'll add some more. Let me dig in my little box here. I'll get another handful of these little squares, and so anyway, we had a really good first day, and we met one of the they had a little restaurant area. Everything's small and close together in this hotel. Like, tables are small, spaces are small. The room was fine, but it was a little on the small side, but it was nice. They didn't, for whatever reason, they don't use or don't supply washcloths, like small washcloths. And it's always interesting when you go from one country or one culture or one whatever to another, to see how things are different in a different part of the world. I'm not a world traveler, never have been. I've done more with Elton since I've hung out with him than I've ever done in my entire life. the last couple of years, 3 years, whatever, 2 years. And okay, I'm just going to randomly put some of these triangles on this. So let's just put down some water and start laying some of these on here and just see what happens. So anyway, yeah, so we wandered around a little bit. And, here's the thing about people, and when you walk, that might have been the night, it must have been the night we did a gondola ride too. I think it was. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. Things are still, although I journaled about it, I haven't gone back and reviewed my journal very much. There we go. I'm just making a wacky border here and just see what happens. Good night, Dorothy. Have a good sleep. So what was I saying? Anyway, we met. Everything is small. That's what I was telling you. Everything is small. It's close together. And so you have to kind of adjust to that and adjust to what they don't have and what they do have. Whoops, too many pieces of tissue here. And that was interesting. The fact that they don't have washcloths, so like to wash your face, that kind of thing. It's like they didn't have that, and I'm like, well, I wonder what they do. Just use their hand? I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just it's just interesting because it's different than what I'm used to and that kind of thing. But it was fine. The bed was fine. And we did take a gondola ride that night. That was fun. And they have those gondoliers dressed just like you see on travel brochures and stuff, the black and white. I think it was a black and white shirt, striped shirt, and the hat and the whole bit, and that was really fun. We took a lot of pictures, and the architecture and all of that was just amazing. I mean, that I was just fascinated, and I have lots of pictures of a lot. Oops. You're not really supposed to just drop this in the middle of what you're doing, but that's precisely what I did. Just drop that tissue, bleeding tissue, right in the middle of what I was doing. And we went down some of the different canals in the gondola, and you got to see a different perspective. And the doors, I took lots of pictures of doors and the architecture and the stonework and it was incredible. But what I started to say about walking is that people forget when you're walking, like taking walking tours and stuff, especially if you're by yourself. If you have to remember that however far you walk away from your, where, like from your hotel, for example, when you walk away from that, you have to remember that however far you walk away, you have to walk back. That is really difficult sometimes for people to grasp that, because it's kind of the concept of your eyes get bigger than your stomach. It's kind of like, oh, this is fine. I feel great. Let's go. Let's walk and go as far as we want to. But you got to remember that you've got that far to get back to wherever you need to be, So anyway, we met this really nice guy who was at the hotel. They had a little restaurant area, kind of a bar type thing, and they had some foods, and he told us that they had the best gelato of, like anybody. And so we tried it. We tried gelato several places, which is kind of like custard sort of, or ice cream kind of thing. And And it was pretty good, I have to say. It was pretty good. Which is probably why I'm so congested. Way too much dairy. Anyway, so we did that, and then the next, I guess it was the next day, I don't know, time frame is a little foggy. Elton's son and daughter-in-law were flying. Oh, sorry. Elton's son and daughter were flying from Las Vegas to meet us, and then their plane they had problems with flights and connections, and they ended up flying like a ton of time, and we didn't know if they were going to get there or not, because it was that dicey as to whether they were going to get there to meet us. And the next day, we were going to have to get on a bus and ride a bus for over 2 hours. It ended up to be 3 hours. They said it would be 2, but it was actually 3 hours to go board the cruise ship, because this was a family vacation, a family cruise. And so that's what we needed to be able to do when we needed them with us. And they didn't get in until about 3 o'clock in the morning. But they did make it, and so, we were all very, very grateful that they made it. Okay, let's take the papers off of these other ones. When the little tissue papers get dry, they just drop away from the surface of whatever you've stuck them on, which is kind of a cool process. Kind of neat that they do that. Anyway, so they made it, and we all got to the bus okay, and got on for a very lengthy bus ride, and they had a pit stop at one place. What did they call that? They called it a comfort stop. That's what they called it. They had a comfort stop, and I decided that I did not need to get off the bus. I was quite comfortable. I was comfortable enough, and so I did not get off the bus. I really don't like bus rides. That is just not my thing. And there were a lot of other buses and transport things, that were there. And then when everybody else who'd gotten off for the comfort stop came back and got back on the bus, they started comparing notes as to because I guess it was a lot of stalls, and you had to pay to go to the bathroom. The bathrooms are not free there, so you had to have euro coins to go to the bathroom, which I find entertaining. And I'm just like, I'm just not dealing with that. I will hold it. I'm not dealing with that. I'm not going to have to do that. Anyway, there was drama on the bus too, and we don't even need to talk about that. Anyway, so everybody started talking about the bathroom stalls in there that you pay to go into, and about half of them were holes in the ground, similar to a lot of Asian countries, I understand, and the girls call them squatty potties, and I'm like, oh no. No, no. I'm glad I didn't have a lot to drink, and no, I am not dealing with that. I'm not dealing with that. Yeah, it is a vacation, not a marathon. You are so correct. We left here on July 2nd. I'm just trying to find a spot to put this so it can finish drying. We left here on July 2nd, and we got off the ship on July 12th. The actual cruise part was a week, from Saturday to Saturday. But then we were there in Venice 2 nights, and then we were back in Venice and stayed close to the airport one night. I know, pay to pee. Pay to pee. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. That's what you have to do. Okay, I need to go check something, and then I will be right back. So you guys talk amongst yourselves just a moment. Okay, in case you see me, I can't tell what you could see. If you saw me stepping awkwardly over something, it's because I'm stepping over the dog. So, are you, do any of you hear me on the squatty potty issue? It's like, yeah, not my thing. Anyway, fortunately for me, didn't have to do that. Okay, so what else should we do here? Shall we do this? Let's see if this is dry enough. Or maybe I'll do one more. We'll add some stuff around this one more envelope. It looks like it's working. So, all right. So I have all of these. I have a little pile of miscellaneous circles and triangles and squares, and then I have some teardrops that I was using for petals for the flowers. So I think we'll just you know what I think we're gonna do? I think we're gonna do like I did on that one journal page. Let's see if I can put my hand on it. Was it in this? Yeah, this. I just took a whole bunch of scraps of the bleeding tissue and just plopped them down. This was just odds and ends of scraps, and plopped them down on that and let it dry, and it turned into that. So maybe we'll just slap some water on this and just put a bunch of pieces on it and see what happens, shall we? So anyway, one of the other things that we were trying to do before we left is get everything done at my house, and we got everything moved out except some furniture that's going to have to be, that we're going to sell at an auction or something, but somebody else is going to have to move it because I've moved everything. I'm not moving another thing. Nope, I'm not. And we had a family that, you know, had been desperate to buy the house and just couldn't wait to have it. And you always take all that stuff with a grain of salt. You never ever assume anything. And they got as far as they wanted the closing on a certain date, and they were pre-qualified, and they were this and that and something else, and the last minute failed. Okay, was not to be. But I met my my part of the bargain. I was ready before I left, and you know, I just wasn't. That was not obviously the right person, family, and they were not from the United States, and so that presents challenges sometimes, you know, of the ways of doing things and all that. So actually, I'm quite fine with the way it turned out. So we have to kind of step back and, you know, take another look at, okay, the negotiation phase and the realtor and all of that. Anyway, so that's where we are in the house, in case anybody was wondering. So, I didn't have any idea how it was going to go, you know. But anyway, it's all good. It doesn't. I am a-okay with what's going on that. Okay, I wanted to be a little more reckless here. Not quite that reckless, but you know, I didn't mean to drop all of the same shape in one giant pile. Yeah, anyway. And now there's two colors on that one, but you know, it is what it is. Anyhow, so let's see what else. So we did a gondola ride. We walked a lot. We ate at some wonderful places in Venice, and then we all ended up after the long bus ride in the P stop where there was squatty potties over holes, which thankfully Barb did not have to experience because she doesn't do real well with things like that. Especially when you're wearing jeans. I can't imagine how that works. And I don't even want to know how it works. I suppose if I was really desperate, I'd figure out how it worked. But anyway. And so then we got to the ship, and we got boarded on the ship and got to our rooms, and then the adventure began on the ship. And so we were on a Royal Caribbean ship, and we made four stops. I don't know. Couldn't tell you now. We stopped in Athens. No, first of all, we stopped in Croatia at Dubrovnik, Croatia. And then we went to, which was absolutely stunningly beautiful, and hotter than, I do mean this sincerely, hotter, it has to be hotter than hell there. Oh man, it was hot. If hell's hotter than that, I do not want to go there. I'm telling you the truth. It was really hot, and the humidity was high. It was absolutely stunningly beautiful, but holy moly, that was some intense heat. But it was beautiful. And then we went to Athens. We stopped in Athens, and I thought that Dubrovnik was hot, but it did not hold a candle to Athens, which was even hotter. And I did okay for a large part of that time until we were climbing up this big hill to go to the Acropolis and the Parthenon. We were on we had hired a taxi driver to take us around in Athens, which was really nice, you know, because then you have a little more flexibility. But holy moly, those people drive like craziness in that place, and the streets are so narrow, so very, very narrow, so very narrow. And you just kind of hold your breath a little bit. Okay, I think most of that's got stuff on it. Is that all? Yeah, that's all I want to do. Okay, I'm going to put all this stuff back in my little container over here, and then we'll see if we can do something with some of these. So I mean, Athens was beautiful. We went to the Olympic Stadium. It's all marble, beautiful. You could go in if you paid. We did not pay, so we stayed outside the stadium, but you could still see a lot of it, and it was really beautiful. It was stunning, but I'm telling you, that oppressive heat. I would go, I don't know if it was unusually hot or if it just was the way it if that's just the way it is there. I really don't know, but it was hot. And then we went to a very picturesque site for to take family pictures and stuff. We took a lot of family pictures, of course, which was really nice because, when are you going to have that many people together again on a vacation? I would venture to say probably never, but maybe, it could happen. Anyway, and we're going to stick this over on this board to dry. So I'm just putting it on this board to dry. There's the other one that's pretty much dry. This one, not quite dry. Okay, so we're just going to let those sit off to the side and kind of do their thing for a minute. So we went to Athens, and we went to a bunch of ruins in Athens. I'm not a history buff, okay? I'm not a history buff, and I'm going to be very honest with you. There are a lot of people that may not agree with me about this. Europe is having a really ultra hot summer. Well, I believe it. But I am here to say that, a lot of people are really interested in history and the ancient ruins and all that. And I'm telling you, I can look at ancient ruins for about 5 minutes and I'm done. I appreciate the fact that people have, people are interested in archaeology and history and all of that they find that so fascinating. But, not everybody likes what I like, for sure. And so I am perfectly willing to go along for the experience of all of it. But holy mackerel, climbing up and down old ancient, old paths and roads, and then here's these things that are the remains of buildings and stuff, and I'm like, okay. But this is so cool. This used to be a marketplace. And I'm like, okay. I'm glad I came. I'm glad I saw it. I'm ready to go. I sound ungrateful. I know that. And it's not, because I enjoyed the experience. It was just so bloody hot. Boy, I was plugging along, but I'm telling you, we were sweating. We really were. And so we went to the ruins. We went and had this scenic overlook and had pictures taken, and it was absolutely beautiful. You could overlook the city, and it was stunning. And then we went to the Olympic Stadium. So we went there, and then we went to this old ancient ruins marketplace. It has a name. I don't know what it is. Don't tell anybody, but I don't know what it is. And we went there, and I'm like, I can barely breathe. I am so hot at this point. And then we go to the Acropolis, the area for the Acropolis. And so you park kind of like down, and then you walk up a hill. And the stones, the path or whatever it is that goes up to the area where you have the tickets to go to the Acropolis, they're marble. They called them cobblestones. I don't know. In my head, cobblestone was different than these, but they were big marble stones. And boy, those puppies were slick. If they got wet, they were going to be really slick. You just had to be careful, and we were. And it was fine. everybody was fine. But then it was time to go. You had a scheduled appointment about when you got to go to the Acropolis. And I was kind of looking forward to seeing that. And until I saw all the people. And all of the people that were waiting, because you had to get your ticket to go in, and then you were going to walk up a hill or something to get to the Acropolis and the Parthenon. And I mean, I made it up this hill. Physically, I wouldn't have any problems, but the heat was just beginning to really get to me. And then I realized we're going to have to go stand in line with a couple of hundred or more, maybe 300, I don't know, people. We're going to stand in line, like person to person to person. And I'm like, nope. I said to Elton, I'm out. I'm going over there and I'm going to sit down in the shade. And I'll see you when you get back. And do you know that our group, the group that we had tickets for, was the last group they let go up the hill to the Parthenon because it was too hot. They shut it down. That's how hot it was. Oh, yes, that was crazy. That was crazy. Anyway, so I sat on a bench in the shade, and I was very content to do that. That did not bother me at all. And then when they all came down, sweating bullets and all that, I was pretty well rested by them, so it's fine. Anyway, so we did that. So that was Athens. The next day, I'm just going to pull these off. They're about ready to come off anyway. The next day, we sailed to the island. I think it's the island. If I'm using the wrong terms and you're from Greece and I don't say it right, my apologies. But I believe the next island was the island of Santorini. I think that's the right terminology, the right language, but I wouldn't swear to it. Okay, this is one that I put all these little triangles on, which you really can't tell necessarily that it was triangles, but there's a few triangles there. And in Santorini, we had rented a car, and it was tight quarters, and it was hot, and so we finally got the car, because you always have those, details of how you get from point A to B and all that. By this point, we have 7 of us, no luggage, but there's 7 of us, and then we all get crammed into this pretty small. It was a van, but it was a fairly small van, and Elton's son was driving us, stick shift. And he hadn't done that for a while. He did a great job, but and then the immortal words you hear, because it was a lot of twisty roads and stuff as we were going up to this one very scenic place, famous place where they lots of people go to take pictures, and it was indeed scenic and it was beautiful. It was Ia, I think was the name. I don't know. Don't shoot me if you know the real name. But we went up to this. All of the buildings are white. They're either flat roofs or arched. And then there are some buildings that are domes, and the domes are blue. And those, as best we could figure out, were all churches. I have not read up on anything. I will read after the fact and figure out where we went and what we did. I go just to experience it, as it happens. That's what I like the best. I like to just go and just take it in as it happens. And so anyway, we go up to Ia, or whatever it is, and I think it's Ia. And it has a funny spelling. That's why it always kind of gets me. Anyway, we finally get up there, and we finally found a place to park. But on the way up, I think it was on the way up. Oh, first of all, you had to take a bus. First of all, you had to get on a bus. And you had to, back up. First of all, we had to get off the ship and get onto a smaller boat called a tender, and because the boat couldn't get close enough to the shore to let the ship couldn't get close enough to the shore to let you off. So you have to do what's called tendering to get to land. So you got on the ship, a smaller boat, you go over, you get off, then you get on a bus, and then you go up the bus, and it's switchbacks going all the way up until you finally get up at the top of this road. I mean, it was narrow. It's like, oh man. Got up there. By the time we got there, and then we're in the heat, and then we get the car. And as we're driving in the car, granddaughter says, "I'm not feeling very good." And I'm like, oh no, this is really, really bad. And I'm thinking, okay, how much further do we have to go? Because I am going into management mode of what are we going to do if we have a car sick person in the car? I'm like, oh, she didn't get sick, but she was not feeling good. And I'm like, oh no, this is very bad news. This is very bad news right here. Oh my goodness, it was quite a day. Anyway, so we went to, okay, you can tell that we live in the age of Instagram. Okay, I'm just going to say that straight up. By the time we got up to the scenic place where everybody wants to take pictures. Okay, you guys ready for this? You have to go down this path. I know. Rhonda, there's a reason I wear this ring right here. Let me show you this ring that I wear. I bought this for myself. Nobody bought it for me. Okay? Let me see if I can get it where you can read it. Do you see what that ring says? See what it says? Hi, Violet. See it? I know, right? Anyway, so we go up to this one place, which is where you're supposed to, and it's a walk and walk and walk and walk and walk and walk some more and walk some more, and lots of little shops and interesting things to look at and stop and see if it hadn't been so hot. But anyway, it still was nice. It still was a good experience. But it was hot, man. It was really hot. I mean, it was like you're just dripping. Anyway, we get up to the place where you're supposed to go, and you walk down between these two buildings. And of course, that makes it even hotter because you've got this kind of narrow path, and everybody's single file going down there. And I'm like, this better be good. I'm thinking to myself, this better be really good. And we're waiting and waiting. And then we finally get to the point where you can see around the corner, which is where you're going to be able to take the pictures down here at this railing, which then overlooks the whole spectacular view. And here are these girls, and I kid you not, these girls, and they are posing for their Instagram shots. Now, I don't know if you know this, you probably do because most of you are fairly savvy on social media stuff. But do you know that they don't go take one shot and post it on social media? They do not do that. They take usually dozens of shots to get the shot that they can post on social media. So we had girls, it was 2 or 3 girls, and they were posing, and they were posing, and they were posing, and they were posing. And then we had the boyfriend and the girl posing. And I'm like, there should be a law. Okay. In my mind was not thinking good thoughts. Because I'm thinking there should be a policeman up here regulating how long you got to stand in this place to get the shot that you... I am not kidding. I'm not even kidding you. That is what was going through my head. And I'm like, and I turned around to Elton and I said, if we're not up there getting this picture, in the next 5 minutes, I'm out. Don't mean to be a pain in the butt. I don't mean to be throwing, although if I'd had cold water, I would have thrown it. I don't mean to be annoying or a nuisance or anything else. I'm just over this silliness, which is what that was, seems to me. Just silliness of getting the perfect pose. But I'm not in that generation. And so I look at it and go, take the bloody picture and get on with it. A bit selfish for their selfies. Oh my goodness, it was. But they had to get the right shot, don't you know? We finally got the picture. We got our family picture. I haven't seen it, so I don't know what it looks like. But anyway, we did that, and this one actually turned out pretty well. There's one spot. I may put one more piece of paper on just because it's such a weird looking spot here. Let's let me show you what I'm talking about as I'm rattling on. I'm sure I will think of, see that? That's weird. Let's see if we can make that bleed a little bit more. We'll see if we can get it to do something. Maybe there's something weird about that spot in the paper. I don't know. Anyway, we'll let that. But that turned out pretty well, actually. I'm pretty happy with that. And I could go and do more over here, but you know what? I'm not going to. I could, but I'm not. So, yeah. We'll let that yellow do its thing and see if it does anything. All right, what time is it? 7:40. This is like this. I'm running on fumes at this moment because this is kind of like the late at night based on the time I've been living. So if I'm not making much sense, I do apologize. That's kind of the downside to coming back and streaming immediately. Anyway, okay, shall we do something with this? I think we should. Let's take this and let's see what we can do. I don't want to do exactly what that is. So, all right. I don't know. Let's just I'm having a moment. I'm having a moment here. I just need to just kind of start. So anyway, we got done with all that. By this point, granddaughter has, she's feeling better. And I forgot what it was I bought there. We didn't buy much. We did go to the glass factory where they make Murano glass. I'll tell you about that later. That was in the Venice area. I'll tell you more about that in another stream. But anyway, whatever it was I bought in didn't amount to much in Santorini, but it was in a plastic bag. There was a reason for that, because I'm thinking, yep, we're going to have a plan here for this in case this gets to be more of an issue. It wasn't. It never did, but you know, the planner in me has to have the escape hatch, the just in case. You got to have the just in case plan in place. And then we went down from that Ia, or whatever that town was, where the picturesque, I mean, it really was beautiful. They really were beautiful buildings and so forth. And okay, let's do some of these. I'm just playing, you guys. Anyway, we got back down from that little town down to the seashore, or closer to the ocean, and there was a place that they wanted, a specific place that they wanted to go have food. Because I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to talk to you for a moment straight on. This is no shade. I'm not casting shade on anybody else who likes to do things like this. But I am just old enough. I will be 72 on Friday, actually. I am just old enough that I'm old school enough that I don't use my phone to tell me where to go eat. I don't use my phone to look up ratings for restaurants. That is not me. No shade on anybody that likes to do that, but that is not me, okay? I just don't do that. And it's hard for me to understand, because what I see and what I saw happening on this trip is that we went a lot of places where we went this way and doubled back and went, and I'm like, the Google gods must be having a great time watching humans do this. And I just don't do that, you know? I didn't grow up that way, so I don't function that way, and I don't think that way, right? What we got, and we had trouble finding a place to park, and so finally most of us got out of the car, and Elton's son went to find a place to park the car, and he did. You know, he found a place, and there were some of the other, you know, we were looking for a specific restaurant because it had a high rating and good food and so forth. I mean, and it was just fine. That was fine. I don't have a problem with that. But we had a deal between Elton and me that, you know, if either one of us, you know, if it was too much, if something was too much, we had the freedom to stop. And so we're walking along, and, you know, it's just like all of a sudden my body would say, nope, can't go any further. If you go any further, you're going to be sorry. And so I stopped. I said, I can't go any further. And so we stopped, the two of us, while the rest of them walked on. And they said that they didn't walk much further, and I was like, that's great. I mean, I was happy that they were happy because they found the place that they wanted to find. And he and I sat by the ocean, and we had the most wonderful Greek meal. It was absolutely stellar. The food was wonderful. It wasn't real expensive. We had a great time. We had a wonderful time. And yeah, it was great. It was super great. So it ended up to be a very pleasant experience for us. And I think, and then the girls got to go in the ocean. They got to go swimming in the ocean, those that wanted to, because we were right there. It was a black beach. The sand, it wasn't really sand, but it was black. It was heavier than sand, but it wasn't as coarse as what you would call rocks. So I don't know, but it was black. So of course it was hot because the black was absorbing the sun. And I'm like, there's not a chance I'm going to do that. First of all, I didn't bring a swimming suit because I don't like the water well enough to get in it and go swimming. I like it well enough to wade around in it. You know, I do like that. but we didn't even do that. Okay, I don't know whether I want to let this flower be like I'm looking at it from behind, or if I want it to have a center. I think I'm going to go ahead and put a center in it. I think that's what I'm going to do, because I think it's going to look better. I got to get my pen working. My paint pen does not want to work. Okay, are you going to work? There, maybe. There we go. Anyway, so it ended up to be a lovely, lovely day. Exceedingly hot, but lovely day. And so we had a great time. Really did. It was a great time. And what else? The next day, that was Santorini. Then so that was all Greece. And the next day we were at sea. And the final stop was back in Croatia at, let's see, where was that? Zadar. 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 That was the final stop. And that was, it was beautiful. It was really beautiful. Also, the whole thing was hot. Every place we went was hot, but Zadar was not as hot, so that was nice. That was nice, and we had a great time, and you just got to go with the flow when you go do this stuff. You just got to go with the flow, It really was. Go with the flow. That's all you can do. And we saw some interesting shows on the ship. They have an ice skating rink on this ship. So they had an ice show one night, and they had ice skating for kids. There were a lot of kids on the ship. There were 3,000, I think this was a 3,000 passenger ship. A lot of people on that ship. We met some really nice people. All right, let's see if we can get some white dots to show up in here. And we had a very good time. It was a great time with the family, and no, but I mean, there were some times where people got a little ouchy with each other. That's to be expected when you're that close together. Excuse me. When you're that close together for that long, there's always going to be a little, a few feathers get ruffled now and then, but all in all, it went quite well. So I have to tell you about going to the glass place when we were in Venice. I'll do that maybe on Friday, because honestly, I'm about shot for today. Anyway, that's what we just did. So the stem, the leaves, and the little worm were already there, and so I just put some of those teardrop shapes of the tissue paper on there, and then went from there, and then put some of these were either the squares or where I cut the squares in half. That could have been, I don't know. When I start talking, I'm just doing and talking, and I don't really pay attention to what I'm doing. Can you imagine that? Anyway, there's that one. We're going to call that one done. It's already signed. My name is already signed, and I don't know what date. This was in 2021, which is not exactly accurate. It's not exactly true, but it's kind of true. That part was in 21, apparently. This was already done in here, so I'll have to come up with something. Maybe we'll put some words in here. I don't know what we'll do, but anyway, these were all circles around the outside of that one. So those were 2 cards. And then just because I didn't have any more cards at handy, I have a whole box of them somewhere over here. These were the envelopes from the watercolor, from these watercolor cards by Strathmore watercolor cards. That's what I was using, but I'd used up all the cards, so I thought, well, let's try the envelopes. And I have more envelopes here, so we may do some more of these. Anyway, I have more of those envelopes. So that's what I did on, this is a card, but this is an envelope. And so this was sort of triangular shapes that I did. You can see a few triangles, but not many. That's okay. And those were some circles. Oops. Hello, why did you go haywire? I don't know. All of a sudden the camera went out of focus. I think it's okay now. And then there's this one, same thing, circles. I was just choosing the colors. And then this last one is a wild thing. I covered the whole surface of it. And we'll peel that off. That at least kind of put some color in that little very white spot that I had left. So I put that in there. This is very wet. As you can tell, it went through the back. It's very, very soupy wet on that one. We'll look at the backs of these other ones. These are not too bad. There's some little messiness there. They're not too bad. You know, you can always put stickers on top of that, or you can just, you know, take this and turn it into a ladybug. That'll work too, right? All right, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm glad that we all got back together and we could catch up a little bit. So I have lots more things to tell you, lots more adventures that we went on that I will tell you about. So come back on Friday, and I'll be here at 2 Eastern on Friday. And until then, thanks for being here. Do something nice for somebody else, and I will see you before you know it. So as always, remember to get creative today, because, you know, it's easy. You saw it here. Tissue paper, a pen. Voila, you got something to share with somebody else. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.